Wow, the music lasted a little bit longer than normal. Anyway, welcome to Biggest Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
You're
Randy.
Joe. You're not Randy. I'm Randy. Oh. What's up, dude? What are you doing?
Not much.
Give them our spiel. This is episode 170. Remember that part?
Yeah. I had to.
Changing everything.
Yeah. Hey, I had to go back and stop my browser from playing it because I was hearing you talking and you talking at the same time, which nobody needs.
Well,
anyway, this is episode 170 of our show, and the date is Tuesday, December 19th, 2023.
right on. Well done.
Can you guys hear me?
Hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Same microphone, same settings from Thursday or Friday night.
Really?
And I'm not like here like I was Friday night because you
Right.
guys couldn't hear me.
I
That's
don't know what
super
to do.
weird.
That is
Yeah.
super weird.
So it has
Welcome to the world of tech.
Yeah.
We got some couple.
You
At
think
least
I was
one
running
new.
a Mac?
What's that?
You'd think I was running a Mac with all the problems we had.
Oh, then it'd be perfection.
Except no.
Hey, we got the Ultra American TTRPGer tonight. I follow him on X. He's a fellow X man.
Oh, hey. So he must. I haven't seen his moniker up here.
Yeah, he's new. I think he's new in the chat.
New in the chat. Hey, subscribe, fella.
Yeah, he's the dude.
Bump
He's
this
a
up
good-
a little bit.
He's a good
Welcome.
dude. Yeah. And of course, we got our regular folks here too, but we probably should introduce our guests that are sitting here waiting.
Yes, we have the fellows from Horde Wars, Blackwall Games, DM Blackwall, and Nathan Lindy.
Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited. Lots to talk about with you and your monster ideas.
Yeah, we had a little discussion beforehand, but we're going to bring up the same issues, so
Yeah.
we get to talk about it all over again. Isn't that great?
That is.
It is.
I like repeating myself. I'm old.
Yeah, it's
It's
awesome.
nothing better than beating a horse to death.
So, in the annals of our game, in our games, we played last Friday online. DM Blackwall was the DM.
Mhm.
We were playing Horde Wars.
Yes. Very cool.
It was very fun.
Yes.
How did you guys feel the session went?
I particularly liked how the last random encounter, the two monsters fought each other. I appreciated that. That was great. After we fought that Naga and a half, the one that was beat down, I was like, holy crap. If we'd had all three of those at full strength, that would have been a heck of a fight.
And
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
all it came down to a die roll for
Mhm.
that to happen, or a couple, but one die roll to see if they were going to duke it out with themselves, and I rolled the right number.
Yeah, she
But
did.
um,
Good job, Joe.
normally you have to do a lot of you have to lay a lot of groundwork to get the baddies in the dungeon to fight each other. I was
Mhm.
happy that we didn't have to do that. Well, they didn't all kill each other off. The ones that were left came over and tried to start something, and we had to show them who's boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As they constricted me immediately, I showed them.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I showed them I wasn't the boss.
So basically, you weren't the threat. So moving on.
Also,
You were soaking up damage for the rest of us. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what they call
Thank
me.
you very much.
healer / damage soaker.
Yeah.
So
And I will say, the reason that there was a chance of them fighting each other is because they're natural predators. Like, those two creatures do not actually get along. Their analogs in the real world kill each other.
yes,
Oh, that's
actually,
cool.
I like that you considered that. That's the sort of thing that I do when I DM. But usually I just do hand wave it and say, I'm just going to attack the party anyway, right, Joe?
Oh, sure.
And Joe's like, those two would hate each other. I'm like, they hate you more.
It shows
Yeah.
that you know what's going on and feel good enough to ad lib it. It's
Yeah.
basically a good like DM, like, hey, this world's livable.
Yeah.
It's not like a made up world that we're trying to play a game with is character sheets. It's like, oh, it has some logic behind it
Sure.
that people can get on.
But we're hoping to eventually turn this into some sort of actual play, right? That's the plan.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I'm willing to do that with a webcam also. And we can use the same method we've been using. We just switch channels so that there is the option to have cameras.
Very cool. Very cool. That'll be good. What kind of where are you guys at in your playtesting? So I know that you run some. Nathan, do you run on Gilded too?
Not on Gilded. I have some home groups.
Oh, cool.
Mostly my schedule, especially the nights when people are available, has been kind of shot lately. So I'm trying to fix that. But
Yeah. Nate and I were talking about trying to get him online maybe once a week through the summer to run test games for the superhero.
Oh, yeah.
Because right now, Basics fully play tested. It's out.
Yep.
Advanced, I think we're pretty good play testing on that.
Yeah.
Is this the only? You have a hard copy. This is the sort of soft copy with the ring.
We
binding.
have 3 different printings. So we've got the plastic spiral bound, which seems to be particularly popular with game masters. We also have a soft cover, and then we have a hardcover. The hardcover, though, we just did a limited run of those for a specific purpose. We are selling the spiral bound and the soft cover. Because hardcover, if we were going to sell that and make money with the size of print run we did, we'd have to sell them for like $60. Maybe.
Oh, yeah,
that's what hardcovers are these days, though.
Yep.
That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Or more, depending on page count and how much art's in it and whatnot.
Yeah, but if I'm gonna do that, I would much rather sell you the full game at that price.
Yeah. The truth is, I mean, it's a decent size soft cover. I kind of get where you're coming from. That you might feel a little like it's a little bit harsh to sell it for that much, but I don't know. I'm pretty biased, but the game is pretty sweet. Yeah.
Yep.
Looks like Ultra American's already on the hero or on the Horde Wars bandwagon.
Yes.
Yeah, he's played a couple of games with us.
Good deal.
And later tonight, we're going to give 3 more people a chance to get on the bandwagon. We're going to give away 3 PDFs later. So keep watching and be ready for that. Free PDFs for Horde Wars Basic.
Yes, so if you're here tonight and you were here last week and you won and you did not send us an email, which was everyone who won. No one emailed to say, hey, I want my thing.
I know who they were.
Please do.
I
already knew one's email, so I got that out to them. But there's 2 people who still haven't let me know what their email is so I can send them the link.
I know it was Mark Markham, Dice Tales, and Rejoice85. I imagine it was Rejoice, right?
Yeah, I knew that one.
You know Rejoice. We know her personally, so
yeah,
that was easy. So she got in because we disliked her better, and we said you get one. No, we wouldn't do that. We'd never do that.
Dice and everything is right.
That's right. Oh, they're a friend. Oh, they won. No, I was kidding.
Well, there were 4 people who wanted. No. I think when one dropped out, there were 4. One dropped out because they already had a hardcover. So we just said, you 3 who say you want it, get it. Didn't have to do any rolling.
Nice.
So I don't know if you
were. But I took care of you. Talk to your husband.
Enjoy Christmas.
Yeah. So I'm sure, you know how things are. You're like, yeah, I'll do that. And then a month later, I was supposed to do that and didn't.
Oh, yeah.
So, guys, the basic game, is it? So, I mean, it's done, right? So you're not going to do anything else. You've got PDFs. Can people buy the spiral bound or the hardback from you or not? Is that not even an option?
Yeah, they can. All they got to do is email us. We've put that on Twitter a few times. Well, I think we've put it on Facebook as well. The email address is, let me quick pull it up.
You can post it in
Horde Wars. Hold on. Horde Wars at blackwallgames.com. So Horde Wars, as if it was one word, at Blackwallgames, as if it's one word.com.
Yeah, you can private chat that here, and then I can copy and paste it into the live chat.
Absolutely.
Patrick Demo, yes, we started early tonight, friend. These guys got to get out here. They got a sharp escape time. There's only so much time they can stand me and Joe. So we have to get them out of here.
The awesomeness blinds us.
That's right. That's what I wasn't thinking that, but let's go with that, Nathan. It's the awesometude.
As far as pricing goes, the soft covers are $25, and the spiral bound, like you've got there, Randy, are $35.
Okay.
And then
I really like the spiral bound.
shipping.
By the way. I really like the spiral bound quite a bit.
Thank
So
you.
I
What
got
about-
to skip the shipping because Nathan handed it to me at Big Geek Con.
Yep.
Yes.
So that was cool.
Which will be around again in some events.
Yes, soon. Lady says the game I played at Big Geek Con with Nathan was really good. My brother liked it too. We both got the soft cover and PDFs.
Thank you much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Yes,
wonderful.
you guys loved it.
So you said there's a hardcover as well. Did you say you only made that for a special purpose and they're not for sale?
That's correct.
Okay.
Hardcovers are not for sale. We plan to
Okay.
do a hardcover print run for advanced because then we're talking about a book that's large enough that we may not be able to do a soft cover.
Ah,
Because the best way to
Oh.
think of basic is sort of like the starter set.
Oh, sure,
right,
sure.
right. I agree. Halcyon has got a comment that I think might lead us into advance. Oh, go ahead. Do your thing. You got something, Joe?
Spiral Bound is great.
Agreed.
Thank you, Mom. Yeah. I really liked it when I was running with it. So
Oh, it's so nice. You flip it over and it's great.
So it's
plastic.
plastics. Yeah, plastic spiral. It's very sturdy.
It is very
and,
nice.
Yeah.
And you can open and just like
That'd
pow.
be my new favorite game book format.
Yeah, it's top notch, guys. It was a good choice.
I'd
So-
say it's good for players
Yeah.
too, not just DMs.
actually,
Oh,
to be
everybody.
fair, that was like the third attempt. for
Oh,
that.
okay.
So we're
Oh,
like
yeah.
happy that
Well,
it worked
sure.
out so well.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mac Thompson. He rolled in, but I want to give Halcyon because he's going to lead us into a discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I do, did you have more? So basics done. You're working on advanced. Halcyon wants to know what can be expected from the advanced over the basic. That's a
I
good
mean,
lead in.
2/3 more level up abilities.
Yes.
But-
Two more tiers, right?
Yeah.
2 more whole tiers. Yeah.
Yeah.
With
more
all the
tiers to play.
monsters that accompany with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So you're talking about about double the number of monsters and beasts. You've got levels 5 through 12, the abilities, including the tier up part of the system, which includes basically advanced options for each of the careers as well as each of the species. Yes, you can level up in your species.
Huh, that's
And
fine.
it will also include a chapter on nautical adventures, a chapter on like domain play, so running your own kingdom or your own like barony or that kind of thing, and also a chapter on the setting, which should include some maps and essentially a 2-page spread for each of the nations in the setting.
Cool.
So if you went through like the humanoid and characters to play in there, there's all these names like Eastern, Franconian, and like who
Yes.
are these people and what do they mean?
Right. Now, should we expect more something like Grimstead? Will there be another setting where you get to have some places where there's going to be some adventure hooks that you guys laid out like you did for basic?
Yes. Each of the nations will basically be presented that way, where you're going to have about a
Oh.
half-page description and then 3 adventure locations with an adventure to play. Not written out like Goblin's Attack, but truncated like our other ones, where you have all the material you need to run the adventure, but where we're not holding your hand for every round of play.
Very cool.
Basically, you can fill it in the gaps to fill in your adventure, your time at play, or what your characters want, or what's going on.
There's a couple of questions in the chat that I'll get to eventually. I'm starring them. So if folks have particular questions, please do that. And we'll try to get to those.
And
With the-
Fladley, yes.
Okay.
Wait.
He answered it already. So Fleddy said,
Yeah, Fladley.
the
Yes.
Horde Wars crew is planning to return for Big Geek Con 2. Yes. So there's another reason for you guys to come to Big Geek Con 2. It'll be in late September. Dates will be forthcoming. There'll be a chance to this next month is going to happen. We're going to get it set up. Joe's going to get the thing set, and I'm going to get the dates and the rooms. And I think we'll talk about the prices. I think they're going to be the same, though. So
I don't see why we
I see no
it.
reason
mean,
to change it.
It was a great value in which
Yep.
we were doing.
The
So
only way they would change is if the hotel changed its prices,
Yeah.
and it would have to be probably a fairly
have to be pretty
jump.
significant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't see a change. So
So as far as the advanced rules, there's not going to be any more species or classes, correct? Or will there be?
Right. So we have had a few requests for boutique species, and actually we've play tested a bunch of different ones for this game system. And if Horde Wars Advanced sells well enough, and there we're talking not just breaking even, but earning probably at least $2,000 in actual profit. If that happens, then we would be willing to do a separate like rarities and oddities species
Ooh.
supplement.
Yeah,
Cool.
more items, more species, more.
Yeah, but that's contingent on the main game being profit bearing, because
Absolutely.
we got to pay an artist to do this additional book, and we do have a fair amount of that material already written and play tested. As far as presentation, layout, editing, like that's not free.
No, it's not.
So
Absolutely not.
should we expect a somewhat different presentation in the advanced book? Except, I mean, is it going to be the same presentation, but all the extra stuff we just talked about, or is the presentation going to look a little different?
Presentation will be a little different. We have a guy who's been working on some border art for us, which I think will be fun. And then we have three new artists hired who are working on it right now, and so there will be some different looks.
Good deal.
Yeah. What do you think? As I've played a few times with you now, what do you think is the strength of Horde Wars as far as like facilitating a good campaign? Because I think it has some real strengths in there.
I think for me, the first thing is the character creation, because you can make more options instead of going, I'm going to be a level 1 rogue and then I'm going to go 3 levels of fight. Like, you pick the 2 classes immediately, which kind of can morph you into a lot of things.
Right. I think that freedom to pick those, what do they call, perks and different things.
What you haven't seen with the advanced rules is sort of our idea. When you tier up, you get what's called a capstone. And you have several options that your careers give you, and also your race. Right. Like we said, you can level up in your race. And so you have to start making choices that make you drastically different than just everyone in that career. So you specialize differently than others. You get all that variation.
Sure. And that's a huge product too of options. I mean, just thinking about
and
the
so
12
it's not like everyone kind of forms the same, kind of branch out more.
Mm-hmm.
And at higher tiers, you feel epic at the beginning, but you feel even more epic later on. And you feel like, I'm that big hero from that story.
Yeah.
And I'm only level 7. Like,
and I won't give anything away. I won't give anything away because I got a peek at your supers game. Is that tier advancement, the bumps everybody gets, is that relatively the same in Horde Wars 2? That when you get to the because that's you'll definitely see a bump in power for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and as far as strengths for an ongoing campaign, even just in basic, but I think you'll find it to be even more so in advanced. But even just in basic, you've got 400 possible career combinations, plus the species, plus the features. You can create quite a wide variety of characters over time to play across the same campaign or multiple campaigns. But also in terms of our treasure system, some of our treasure is very specific, some of the magic items, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as magic weapons and as far as other treasure items, there are quite literally, in some cases, thousands of possible rolls on those treasure tables. And that's per type of item. So thousands of different pieces of artwork you might find. And so on. And so that gives you quite a good deal of replayability on the treasure end. And we've also designed the world where we're only displaying an area about the size of Western Europe. So there's a vast area of the world to explore for the game master to add their own material. And that's very deliberate.
Now, when you say that, are we going to find that, is it Franconia and Mercia? Are all those places going to be in this continent that you've set up already?
Yeah.
So there's room outside that's going to be completely undefined for the DM to do what they want.
Yes.
That's very cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
And then adding the setting part, it gives you, coupled with the treasure items, it allows the DM to tell really great tales, especially when the treasure helps you to make this whole story work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And
think that's cool.
And so, like, the game master doesn't have to make as much heavy lifting as you say, like a high level D&D campaign.
Right.
Where you're like,
Now,
how can I actually challenge these people at a certain level?
I'm not sure how much I want to ask about this. I'd rather have people watch it once we post some of the actual plays, but watching Todd's DMing style and I've not played with Nathan yet. I mean, I was busy at Big Geek Con, or I would have jumped in. You definitely use your tables a lot, and it definitely makes it makes the game feel, I mean, I don't think anybody can go, oh man, I think Todd's trying to screw my character. You just pretty much remove that. And I think on one hand, that's really good. Other times I wonder if you ever just take control and just do it yourself and ignore the tables. Because you guys tend to use the tables a lot and efficiently, not in a bad way, not like you don't know what you're doing, but you're like, hey, we're going to see what happens this day and roll. And that's kind of fun. But do you ever because when I design an adventure, I'm a control freak. So go ahead.
Yeah. I do when it is obvious what the monster's motivations would be, or when it is an intelligent opponent with a personality. That's why you'll see we actually have a personality table in the Game Master section to help you go, all right, what is this intelligent villain like? Or intelligent ally. What are they like? Are they cowardly? Are they brave? Are they malicious? Are they dishonest? Are they manipulative? Like, what is this person like? Because then you don't really need to randomize anything further. You've already kind of got the kind of cornerstones of what their personality is like and what they would do. But for an unintelligent opponent, then I think actually randomized behavior to a degree can be good, especially if they're in a stress situation where you've killed all their allies, or where you've reduced their hit points substantially, or where you are just immune to everything they can do. If that happens, there should be a chance that they'll react in a new way.
Right. I think the way you used the way you used the encounter tables. Did we say this online or before? I can't remember, about the Nagas and the birds, the falcons.
Oh yeah.
We had an encounter where I guess you had rolled two. We rolled badly enough to where we got two encounters at the same time, and you realized they were natural enemies. So you had them fight each other, which weakened the Nagas and actually was to our advantage. And I thought it was kind of a neat way that, within using the tables, you seem to be comfortable interpreting what you get however you think would be more appropriate. So it's not like you just go, well, you got 3 Nagas, you got 7 Falcons, roll initiative.
Yeah. Right. But that when I did that, Joe actually rolled to determine what would happen. Because I went, okay, because these creatures don't get along, there's probably a 50% chance they'll just fight each other. Because they don't like each other. But there's also a chance that they'll for example, be working together because someone sent them after you. Like a brown wizard was maybe controlling them and sent them to go kill you. Well, in that case, or a lich or something. Well, in that case, then they should totally work together. So there's a 25% chance of that, and so on. And then Joe rolled, but I based what could possibly be true off what monsters there were. But rather than me deciding, well, I'm just going to spare them. No. It could be that they all just want to kill you. Right. And that should be possible.
Yes, I agree.
Sure. The random table thing there, it takes a load off the DM, because instead of you trying to decide arbitrarily what they're going to do, you have a menu in front of you. You can still tweak it because you're the DM, but at least it gives you something cool you can grab onto.
Several good comments I want to highlight for a second, if we can pause for a moment. Ultra American TTRPGer says, character creation is simple and creative. Mechanics work well without bogging down gameplay. You feel pretty ready to run a game yourself after the first or second game. Those are his strengths, he thinks, for the game. And I kind of agree. I think after you play a couple of times, you're like, wow. I know Todd kept pushing me to, you ought to run something at Cabin Con. You ought to run something.
You should.
And I was like, and at first I was like, I'm not sure I'm comfortable. And then I played once or twice. I'm like, wow. Yeah, this is a smooth system. It makes a lot of sense. I absolutely could.
We went out of our way to give the game master enough tools to run the game.
Yeah.
So they don't have to get bogged down in like, how does this work? How does that work? Where's all those spells? like even in the monster design, once you have like what you do like off the table, you can go to the monster, go okay, and then for many of the monsters, which in advance will give you a few more options for many of the creatures, but like how strong are my players dictates like what kind of bird are they going to fight. Level 1s might be bad against hawk, versus levels 5 or 6 might have a thunderbird,
right?
Which I think is in basic as well, if I remember.
Yeah.
And so you kind of got to do that where you go, okay, birds. And then you go, hey, but the game master still has agency to pick like what makes sense for us or what's the challenge.
Right.
And the key is, can you get to that action? Can you get to the enjoyment part and not just get bogged down of, okay, got to flip here, got to flip here, got to flip here. Okay, we're ready to go now, I think.
Yeah.
And go in that.
So are the encounters supposed to be dialed into the players or the characters, that is, as in they're appropriate for what the characters should be able to handle, or are there...
You mean the random encounters?
Yeah.
Well, no, because by their nature, they're random.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But I was just coming off of something that Nate was saying. I'm just trying to clarify.
So, like, if you rolled goblins, they're not going to be all the goblin cannibal, or they could be. And that's in the game, in the random encounter, usually we just have goblins this many. And in the rules, if you read that kind of in that how that table works, like you can select some of the more advanced ones, like one of or something, but it basically depends on your tier, that's where the advanced game comes into play. It's okay, we're level 1 goblin to a level 12 party, which is the max level of the system. Yeah, that shouldn't be a threat at all.
Right. Because the times I've played in retrospect, there's been a variety of different kinds of encounters. So they're not all just, it's not like you walk through the forest and suddenly it's designed for you. It's the forest has what it has, and you might meet the worst of it. You might meet the least threatening of it, because we ran into a bunch of stags. We were able to supplement our rations because we can't carry that much.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and I seem to recall a really pimped out priest type guy that just flexed and shut down 4 of those stags.
Yes.
So basically, I fed the whole party.
yes.
But so the flexibility that you were asking about, Joe, is specifically with the monsters where there is more than one stat block. So for zombies, or for wights, or for goblins, or these kinds of things, the game master is the one who determines which stat blocks are used. However, when it comes to you rolled an encounter with a T-Rex, well, that's what you got.
Well,
yeah, you could have a T-Rex,
Yeah.
or you could have a T-Rex
and a dragon if we roll bad enough.
Yeah.
I want to pause for one of our favorite dudes, because he says nice stuff about us. Bruce Lombardo of Dick's Division. I had to tune into that big dick energy stream. Rainey and Joe, how can I use the advanced bestiary to torture my players with this? And he follows that up with, is there a way I can have my players in Horde Wars ravaged by Jotun blood, fire giants, or dream wraiths? So, he's pimping out the advanced bestiary. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah,
I'm sure once you've played the game a bit, you can probably reverse engineer monsters to fit.
Sure.
And
Definitely.
we actually do have templates for like how you fix monsters, like it makes sense.
Cool.
I don't know if we might try to get that in advance or not. That's still in the.
I was going to ask you.
We do have a few tools that we do to go, hey, if you're like, I want this. So they can fight giants, which are going to be in advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we moved them from basic.
There's none in basic.
And you're going, but I want them to be like this from like some series, or something. Like, hey, you can add, switch out maybe a protection, like they go become fire or something. And then they can channel their fire damage through the weapon.
And
That's a
right
quick and
there,
easy.
you've got fire giants.
Yeah, I think just looking at even the basic, I can see how you could build a monster pretty easily. I think in terms of like, just give it this ability. And I was like, I could borrow this from this guy, borrow that from that guy. Next thing you know, you got a new monster. That's kind of nice about I think the system. And it's not like your monsters aren't overloaded with like 47,000 abilities.
No.
Which can be frustrating as a DM, because like, which ones are worth using?
No, we were.
Though the Archlich is a full page, like
Yes.
top to bottom, 2
Yeah.
columns.
Well, I believe that. And
Well,
You
okay.
because
picked
the
an art
lich,
mage.
the lich alone is tough.
I mean,
Well, there was a deal back when they were doing the Monstrous Compendium that they wanted to give every monster a full page treatment, and the way those monsters are built, so that's not enough for them for some monsters, and it's way overkill for others. So instead of, you guys want to fit a monster on the page, but you have more than one. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But so that's much better than some weird adherence to just one per page kind of deal.
Right.
Because then they had to have, or they wanted to have, I guess, big art spread for each one. So that makes your book more expensive too. So I don't see the point in that. You're mute.
Yeah, you muted.
It seems weird to be mute, which I'm good at doing.
Right.
It seems to artificially choose to have one page per monster was weird. I think that was 3rd edition where they tried to do that in 3.0.
Yeah, something like that.
But I also, I don't know, we're kind of bleeding into the monster design talk, but I kind of wonder why you guys didn't have more fluff built in for your monsters. Like, instead of a short paragraph, sometimes maybe just like 3 or 4 paragraphs, just saving space, letting DMs do their own. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Answer the question.
Well, couple reasons. In some cases, the fluff is necessary for the function of the monster. For example, a zombie needs to be able to spread a zombie plague. So you'll find a sidebar for that with our zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Or a werewolf needs to follow the cycles of the moon, right? To be a werewolf. Otherwise, you're just some dog guy, I guess.
And then the humans, like, they have a name. So, like, if you rolled that as the encounter using, in canon people, like, how can you get a name that is culture appropriate for those people?
And so we have sidebars for the mercenaries from the different parts of the different countries, the different regions of the world. Gotcha. So that you can go, okay, this is name appropriate for that culture. So when it's necessary for the function of the monster, we do that. But when it isn't, we don't want to waste your time or to clutter up a page with information you don't need. But 2, we kind of expect the reader to be a fan of the genre and know what many of these things are.
Right.
And then thirdly, we've often embedded, you'll find it particularly in the monsters and beasts, not so much the people, because they're people. They'll have their own motives. But within the monsters and beasts, we've embedded behavioral encouragement in the stat block itself, where zombies get bonuses for flanking you, like beyond just normal.
Right.
They do a whole extra die of damage. So zombies are encouraged to mob you.
Which is a classic trope for zombies anyway.
Exactly.
But
instead of telling you
zombies are
that,
mindless, though. How are they going to know they get a flanking bonus?
Yeah, we're relying on the game master there.
Well, or it just be the fact that, you can interpret that as that's what zombies do.
Yeah,
so they
surround you. They surround you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where a lot of it, like for humanoid, character class characters, their abilities will tell you what they're doing. Where for an animal or beast or a monster, we have sort of that programmed language in there that this is their preferred method, which gives them bonuses.
Right.
And that's our way to kind of go, how do they fight? Like the little viper has, assassination. So when they bite you in the first round, they're going to do more damage. So they're an ambusher,
Right.
Here's some high praise. Ultra American TTRPG or Horde Wars Basic feels more like D&D to me than actual D&D.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dude, dig that.
Okay, I want to rewind here in the comments back to what someone is asking as far as a design
Yeah.
a
Well,
design consideration. I'm trying to find it, but I don't see it. Essentially, Elle was asking something about why have so many. So you said 400
Mhm.
combinations. So old schoolers will say you don't need that much because you can just role play. So you have 400 different combos, and some folks might say, well, what do you need all that for? Can't you just role play that? And I will say what I think, and then why don't you guys follow up? Role playing is different from playing from the rules that your character follows and your character's abilities. So sure, you can role play different personalities, but that doesn't necessarily do anything except, have a different experience at the table between the characters. If you have a fighter who's brave or cowardly or forthright or maybe sneaky, all those things will change the way they present at the table from a personality standpoint, but not what weapon choices they have or what focus they choose to pursue with their characters' abilities.
Yep.
So I like having lots of options, and in the way you guys present it, it's not an overwhelming. The 400 choices aren't like listed out. Here are your 400
No.
choices. It's just you have X amount of classes, X amount of races or species, and within those you have as you level, are the 400 choices
Oh no,
just that
that's
first
just
level?
in basic.
That's just in
Basic.
basic.
But that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying is
Yeah.
when you make your character at first level, there are 400
It's
combinations.
simple
you
count.
can-
It's simple counting because
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
When you
Let's-
multiply races times 2 classes, I mean, quickly you get a very large number.
yeah, yeah.
And the thing of beauty, and this is from a guy who doesn't make lots of characters. And 2 comments that I'm praising, very praiseworthy. 1, it's easy. 2, it's fun. I literally had a good time. I preferred, and I did I even randomized things that weren't randomized because I was like, I'm going to play this race. I'm going to play this thing. I'm going to choose even some of the features I picked. I was like, I'm not sure. I'm going to roll this one. And I think it's nice for that to have enough options to where you could grab a D4 or a D6 and roll and see which one you pick. And it's fun. It has the ability to have super old school feel, even with the newer rules, the more modern rules.
Right.
Yep.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I'm sure that's what you were shooting for. So, and you accomplished it. So it's good. I'm excited about Advance because I want to see more about the domain. I want to see more about the world. And I'm having a good time. I wonder.
So, but we haven't really finished this out.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So there are 400 combinations. What do you say to somebody who says, why do you need that much?
Well, because we designed the game that way, we could have given you less choices and given you a linear path like D&D does with, say, a fighter or with a paladin, where you might get one real branching choice like they do in 5th edition, or you might get none real branching choices and just kind of steadily plot along.
Like first edition.
Instead, we broke them down into more basic components so that you can make what we hope to be a more interesting character. For those of you who've played 3rd edition D&D, if you remember the Gestalt rules, that's essentially how we built our game by default.
Yeah.
And if you want to go into
Gestalt by
hard mode,
default.
you can play in one career. It's an option. It's in the game rules. Wouldn't recommend it for a first timer.
But you could also pick 2 character types that you could pick what would be an example of someone who wants to just be a fighter. So you don't care about spell casting or thievy abilities. They don't want to be an assassin.
Sure.
That's actually how the mercenary class came out. Career came out.
Yes. Right. So a mercenary, an archer, a crusader, a blade master, a knight, each of these comes with its own unique set of abilities that you can combine to make a character who's more skilled with different kinds of weapons.
Right. So you could be a mercenary archer or a mercenary cavalier,
Right.
which
Yeah.
sounds odd, but I'm sure it'll work out good. So you could be someone who just likes to swing your sword,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
and there's options for you.
Yep.
And they should be obvious from as far as I'm concerned. Those sorts of things, when I look through the character choices, there were some very obvious combinations. So if you want to try to be a Jedi, right? I think I picked a good combination for that with the Red Wizard Assassin, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he has some. He doesn't have a lightsaber, but under the right conditions, he can go in there and just murder someone first round. So it can seem like that because that's what a lightsaber can kind of do, and he has some mystical abilities on top of that. His fighting,
Yep.
So in a rough sort of way.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, when you hit level 3, you'll be able to get a lightsaber in effect if you want. There's a feature you should pick up.
Why did you tell me that? Because now I have to do it.
Yeah. I mean, technically you can get it at level 1. You just can't use your cantrip anymore.
Yes.
Oh, you have to sacrifice something out?
Yeah, at level 1 you would have to. But
Well,
it won't
I think I
take a
remember
feat or
right,
feature.
Right. I think I remember.
Or you can just use your feature
remember
at
something
1.
that, yeah. I have to look at that.
I found the options. At first, I was like, I think I'm going to be baffled by all the options, but I wasn't. I mean, I liked them. I liked a lot of things, but I just decided on a concept, and I found it easy to pick. I mean, I wanted to be the classic healer guy, but I managed putting a spin of a vampire hunter on my guy, and I'm good at healing. I'm like a cleric, and I like my dude.
Oh,
I mean-
here's a question. You said cleric.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nate.
That's fine.
Why did you go with more traditional like priest as opposed to more generic healer?
So
If that was even a thought process.
no, it kind of was. From my side, Todd will give you or Blackwell give you a slightly different hint. But the idea for us is in our setting, there's really 2 kind of 3 faiths. And the idea of like the supernatural being where healing and life comes in, like you go to your creator or whatever. And so that gave us to like, well, what do you need to do to gain access to that power, which is be a priest in a setting. And so it's more of a setting flair on it. Like, why do we not have the paladin, but instead we call it the crusader? Because that's what's going on in the setting, which in basic, if you read those things, you kind of go, why was that chosen? Where hopefully when you have more of the backstory of the setting, that'll make a little bit more sense from advanced.
Actually, when Todd was running the game last time, I want to tell him now, I am listening carefully to every bit of lore that he's dropping, and I'm starting to see why he chose Crusader. And it intrigues me how the NPCs of the area think of them. Some have they seem to be fun, but it sounds like there's a drawback to them as well. They don't strike me as paladins. Not in the classic sense.
They're
Yes.
concerned with order.
Right.
Now, order and good segue.
They tend to.
Right.
But
Yeah.
order pressed down too heavily or oppressively can spin a bad light on the folks who are making that order happen.
Right. It's like the same reason why we called, instead of a rogue, we have a thief and then the deep delver.
Right.
We don't have the rogue class, which is trying to put a nice spin on basically the thief.
Right.
Well, when we and Randy talk about a game we want to make, we want to try to have the thief without having a thief.
Right.
Right. And I think we're wasting a lot of brain cells by trying to make it different but the same at the same time.
Yeah.
Put a coat of paint over the thief and call it something else.
Right.
And Mac, you're exactly right. Deep Delver is just like a Tomb Raider or Grave Robber.
Yeah.
Yep.
But to kind of answer the question another way, Nate and I went for greater specificity with our career names. We didn't go for generic terms.
Mm-hmm. It reflects your setting.
Well, yes, but it also reflects like the job of the person.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that so that you gain some setting knowledge just by building your character.
Yep.
So, for example, if you choose to play a priest, simply by building that priest, and let's say you combined it with a knight, you would know stuff that is true of all priests, right, in the setting.
In a general sense.
In it, well, like as far as what their starting abilities are, they're the same as yours.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, you would know what the religious restrictions are because you just read them. They're in they're in your career. So even if you'd never played our game before, but just built your new character, you would know a little bit about the game world just from your 2 careers.
Right.
Enough that you could actually share that information with the party in a useful sense. For example, a red wizard like you're playing, if you hear about an enemy red wizard, can tell the party that guy has fireball and haste.
Mm-hmm.
And you would know that.
So that's what we watch out for. Yeah. So, and that's a thing that's a bit of a contention with some players is what knowledge your characters have about the wider world. Are you completely ignorant hicks that only know what is real between your house and the next hill, and everything out past that's a big mystery? You don't even know what the other classes do because some DMs say you don't know anything.
Right. So really, when we started this whole system, even before it was Horde Wars per se, we generally considered all the characters were competent. So one thing we don't... Yeah, that was, I think, the major idea we had was essentially we have no negatives to skill checks. One that is harder for the math and stuff. We might have some weird spots that's more situational than anything, but usually like, hey, they have cover instead of you taking -2, they get a +2 bonus.
So it changes the target number instead of giving you a penalty,
right,
that kind of thing.
But the basic idea is you're competent, but in your specificity, you have better abilities, i.e. your skills. And so like when you pick the priest, like Todd was talking about, you actually pick up the skill faith. So you actually have knowledge about your faith, but because we assume the competency, you can make faith checks on other faiths. And like, so like you have some knowledge and trained to do that. And so a lot of our basically the trainings is you have more specialized knowledge than everyone else, but everyone else, like, you know, I teach physics in real life, but, you know, just because of things I picked up, you know, English knowledge, you know, pop culture knowledge. Am I good at it? No. But I could still roll. I might know that trivia question, for instance.
Right. So incompetency is one of my pet peeves with the old school games conception of how you start out. It's sorry, my dog is trying to get my attention.
It's fine.
Shush. So as soon as Randy gets back, I got to take my dog out. That's probably what he's doing. Anyway, I really don't. So people talk about 0 to hero. You can do that without being incompetent.
Yes.
So when I say 0, I think more of what your influence is rather than what you can do. So even our characters, they're competent, but they're still nobodies because nobody knows you.
Right.
Unless you've taken the noble. There's a nobility thing. I can't remember what it's called. Is it noble or nobility?
Yeah. Basically, the position of privilege where you're a member of a noble house.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you're widely known, but you're maybe slightly more important than maybe another PC. I've got to take care of my dog because she's being annoying. I'll be
Yeah. And I'm sorry, guys. Oh, Joe and I are tag teaming because my wife is struggling a little bit with a tooth issue, so I may have to bounce back and forth. But I will not be leaving unless it's crazy this time. So,
Understood.
did you guys get? Al had a question a while back. I don't know if Joe brought this one up.
Was it the one about the variety of careers? Because we answered that one.
No, it's a little different. He says, so Horde Wars is an IP game like Pendragon or 13th Age, and you can't really make your own world. The world is cooked into the rules. That's his question.
Oh, well, what do you think, Randy? You've looked at it.
I absolutely don't think so. I think you'd have to put a spin on a few of the character classes. If I wanted to make a brand new world, which has crossed my mind, to make my own. I want to wait to see yours, but I would, if I were to use, I think Horde Wars is portable. I think though the design of your world is going to have to bring some of that stuff into play. And if you want a certain feel, like, you have that randomness of a lot of the different things. I think it is very portable. By the way, I also think 13th Age is portable. I know it is. I've done it. I've created my own. So, yeah, I don't think you're stuck, but I understand L's question. I think the game world itself, which is why I want to see it, I think it's very playable. I don't see a reason why you can't do that. Yeah, I get it. Bruce says like Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah, I think it's good. I prefer a game that is fit to a setting than just a generic. I mean, I like D&D, but it's pretty generic. So.
And like the rules for us for like the combat spaces and the movement is, map agnostic. So you can be hexes or squares. We're just like, hey, you have this combat square at a certain amount of distance. And then we talk about miles for like long travel or whatnot.
I also think you guys could use range bands if you wanted to in your game. Just keep the same distances and call them bands and not worry about the actual
right.
What the
and we basically
is.
do that with like close range, short range. Now we do put a number of squares because then you can base your movement off of that.
Right.
Like, medium range is up to 24 squares, so you have to move 4 rounds worth to get from one end to the other end of medium.
Yeah. And we haven't been playing with our couple of play tests there with you guys. We haven't been playing with any kind of map or anything, so it's working out pretty good.
Yep. And was basic. I mean, the setting's not in there. It's in there through the different careers and like the little notes here and there
skills.
And the skills. But like this could be dropped into any world.
Yeah.
Too.
I think so too. It's just not, it has enough flavor where you can tell it's not generic by the when you read it, there's enough. When you talk about the Mercians and this and that and St. Lucia and these things, I think there's flavor built in. There's campaigns when there's a world built behind it, but you can ignore all that. You can put your own tags.
Well, I
on
mean, how many of us have read some of the 5e compatible, but it's a system agnostic books that's coming out lately, and you're just like, so basically they want to make a D&D book, but they wanted to make it something else, and then they fall flat. And really, what we're trying to do is, this is our game. If you want to play it, great. And really, once you have the rules and things, you can play it however you want.
Right.
I mean, we're not
There's
holding
no
hands and do this.
Yeah.
But we're giving you, this is the world that this system was designed for. If you are new to DMing, new to playing, and you just need to know, like, hey, can I have that story right out of the box? I mean, there's reasons why Paisio went off with the campaign arcs, the book series. I'm trying to remember the term that they use, but essentially the 6th book, here's this whole adventure.
Right.
I mean, people want that.
They do seem to want it.
They seem to. But, I mean, there's a bunch of types of different gamers, and everyone wants different experiences.
Yep.
And so, a lot of times, and then you think about, like, all the different game systems or, like, settings or books you read, like, I want to play in that, And so, like, well, how can you do it? Either there is, a system designed for that. Like I just saw one for the Crow movie. Mm-hmm. And then otherwise it's like, well, how can we apply this to that and make it work? And we're just hoping our system is robust enough so you can do that. But if you want a setting, we have it and it makes sense.
Yeah, we designed it to be modular, so it wouldn't be terribly hard to change the description of Crusader to read like a D&D paladin if you wanted to.
Right. Oh, I think so.
And so on. Like it, but our game rules are genuinely more efficient. Play faster at the table, and I know that partly because we've had a ton of play testing, and partly because that's the main thing D&D and Pathfinder players say when they try our game the first time. They talk about how much quicker the turns move, and how happy they are about that.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's something I really enjoy. Your initiative system is by far one of my favorites. I like the speed. It's not that combats can't be long. I just don't want to be waiting forever for my turn. And I don't want, and I think I've talked a little bit on this show about the whole analysis paralysis. I don't think you guys run into that too much because you just don't have all that many options, at least at low level, and not enough to make you go, oh, what am I going to do?
Well, it's also designed to break it down. We've tried other methods in our development, but basically Nate and I designed our game to, in general, play within the limits of human attention.
Yep.
Yeah.
So unknowingly, there's actually 21 careers. So usually you can pick one. Like everyone has their idea. I want to play this kind of character.
Right.
Like I want to be a deep delver. And then after that, you're like, I have no clue. Roll a d20.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I love
Whatever
about
comes
it.
up, like, can I do that? That sounds interesting. And even with the character creation, eventually you're going to pick one of the starting gears. You don't get both.
Right.
So you kind of have to pick what's your primary, at least initially on.
Yeah.
And we've had plenty of people that pick the primary, and then suddenly the thing that actually matters more is actually their secondary. And they're like, oh yeah, I actually do have those abilities.
Yeah. I actually find that since I picked two careers that are fairly close, what did I pick? The Acolyte and is it the Priest? Is that what it's called?
Acolyte
I picked
and
those
Priest,
two, but they do different things. And so I actually found myself going, oh, I got to make a decision. I want that, but I want that. Oh, which one do I want? Where if I had picked something very different from the Acolyte or different from the Priest, I might have been like, no, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be this kind of guy. It might have been a little easier. So the closer you pick them, I find the choices are harder. I mean, was it Field Medic, which I love. It's been really paid off well for our particular group. It was not the easy choice because there was several others that looked really tasty. So I was like, man. So hopefully later on I can get some of that other stuff. Yeah. So that's
and
cool.
We try to make it so that every career can do something in combat. So it's not like, hey, I'm the pacifist healer, so all I'm going to do is keep you up. Yeah. Like, even if you are that, you have other options that your character has. Like, goes back to the, hey, do people know what priest can do? And like the career priest, like I know I said like the 3-phase, it's the priest career is kind of separate from those in some sense. Like a priest has these abilities. Mm-hmm. But generally the priest career usually in game would go for one of the particular religions.
Yeah. So we've had a couple questions about that. So in our game world at present, there is a single dominant monotheist faith of worshipers of the Creator. They are mimicked by worshipers of the Dark One. This is an analog for like a Judeo-Christian god or for Satan, respectively. Mm-hmm. This is deliberate because if we're doing European medieval fantasy, you kind of need a central church. Right. If you're going to have crusades, you do need people to go crusading. We also have the Dracarans, who are a villainous, monstrous species who worship dragons as their religion. The Orcs have their own pantheon. The Easterns, which is a group of humans who live to the east, thus the name. Obviously, it's not what they call themselves. They have their own separate pantheon. There's also various cults of Dagon and other Canaanite and Cthulhu-esque deities. So there are other religions, but they are not dominant in the starting area. Mm-hmm. And the priest specifically is a worshiper of the Creator, whereas an acolyte could worship any of those gods.
Right.
and the powers are different because of that. They're also themed differently, which you'll see even more with the higher tier options with the capstones, where you're
Okay.
diverging more strongly.
Because, like you said, I'm thinking this and thinking this. Like, it gets really bad at capstone time. You're like, oh,
Right. So many good
because
choices.
you have to pick. Because you actually have 2 paths for each career,
Right.
You
And
only
you
get
got
one.
and don't you have a racial capstone?
and then also racial capstone.
You
Yeah.
only can pick one of those 5.
And so, like, that completely separates what you can do and kind of what you become in the world. Like, the Acolyte might become a seer. You know,
Right. Yep. So
and
what
changes kind of your role.
should we swerve into monster design now, Joe? I want to kind of dig into some of that.
Well, before we do,
go ahead.
very
Go ahead.
briefly,
Sure.
so to answer a couple of questions,
Yeah.
in general, we are
Mhm.
currently working on finishing our playtest material for a superhero game that we're working on. That playtesting should be starting to happen online in May, but has already begun in multiple in-person groups. We are also working on the not playtesting, but the production of Horde Wars Advanced, and we are hoping to have that out by about this time next year. That's
Right
give
on.
or take 3 months, basically depending on the speed of our artist, our main artist. We have 3 artists, but one is doing the bulk of the work.
Good deal.
With so much you talk about playtesting and stuff, do you find motivation difficult? I mean, how many different games do each of you have going on right now connected to Horde Wars, either the supers or advanced or whatever you're playing?
I mean, I currently cut down to 1 at the moment. Hopefully, more coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Nate will probably be up to 2 starting in the as his new semester starts, or going in, especially going into the summer, when we get the playtesting going for supers, because we want ideally over 100 playtesters, because we actually did get that for Horde Wars over the time that we were developing it, and that really helped getting feedback from a bunch of different people with varying perspectives and varying levels of experience. And then that being said, I am actively running 2 in-person groups, and then that are like weekly, and then I am participating to varying degrees in 1 to 3 other games throughout the week, depending on. I've got like a once a month game, which has been playtesting the nautical rules for Horde Wars Advanced. I have one shots that we do on our Gilded server. I'm hoping to talk a few guys like Brian over there in the chat into running one shot occasionally as well. And maybe you, Randy.
I should. I need to, because I have plans for Horde Wars. I need to get in there and dig. Well, my group we're switching to Horde Wars next time we play.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm sticking to my settings, so it'll be. But
That's fine.
That's fine.
But I'll be probably just using your class, your careers as is. I don't see a real problem. Maybe I may even be able to just. I'm not sure what even religions I've brought up yet, so I might be able to use your faiths too the same way. It won't be a big deal.
I think that while I wouldn't call them generic, I would call them somewhat universal within the hobby. All of them, we've all played them to one degree or another before by one name or another. Whether you have little bits and nuggets of setting info embedded in there, that kind of stuff can be easily. Oh, Randy fell out. Don't know what happened to Randy. Anyway, it's easily adaptable.
Yep.
I'm back. Sorry.
Are you just hitting random keys over there, dude?
Yeah, I'm just like seeing what happens when I push stuff. You know me.
Yeah.
I'll get used to it. I just push it and say, oh, that's
in terms of the superhero, there is a lot more careers in order to kind of make almost everyone you consume from any of those universes and stuff.
Yep.
At least
that's
have
like
our own
45.
Yeah, I mean, we just added one yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Okay, can you say if it's the same basic setup, 2 careers?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we
so I'm
designed
going to
this-
say some superheroes need more than 2.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but that helps limit the power level of the characters.
Right.
And so you can run into a supervillain or maybe even a competing hero who is more powerful. And that's just how it will be for you.
Right.
Like you're like, yeah, I'm really strong. I'm way more powerful than a random person. But Superman, he could kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
So a Superman kind of character would be an NPC.
If it was full abilities, you can get pretty close though. You can get
You
a
can
guy
get close.
who won't die of old age, who can fly and shoot beams out of his eyes, and has super strength if you want. However, if you choose to do that, you won't be quite as good as Superman at least one or probably 2 of those things. And you won't be picking up the frost breath or any of the other more ridiculous abilities.
The super speed.
But
Right.
you could do that, but
could.
then you're giving up something else.
Right.
So you can get
Yeah.
close, and it's a question of what are you focusing on.
Right.
So like One Punch Man is very doable, almost out the gate. Many of the mutants, like X-Men style, we don't call that in our game because
Legal reasons.
Yeah, so many legal,
It's a lot more. There's a lot more
weird
of that
crap.
going on in design.
I've had a little. Go ahead.
But like, we have probably 3 or 4 ways to become Spider-Man. In the true set, depends on what you think of what Spider-Man is or what can he do.
Sure.
And so, where the
I've had
X-Men types are usually easier to handle. They're almost monoclass for some of the stuff we do.
I've had a small peek behind the scenes on it, and I've been talking with DM Blackwall, and I do think it's got a lot of promise. I think Joe's going to like it a lot.
The superhero thing.
Yes, you will. I think
All right.
their
Can't be Doctor. I can't see how your game can support a Doctor Strange character. So he would probably be an NPC because Doctor Strange is cosmic level dude. He can affect the planet. He has powers that are planetary level things.
Yeah, we do have a way to do that gives you a bit of a risk reward, but we can talk about that later. Where you can essentially push your powers beyond where they should reach.
Right. Well, in the Doctor Strange type of super wizard can maybe not at the heat of battle always do everything that's under the sun possible, but conceptually, they have large tomes where they can find, here's an esoteric spell that I can use to solve this problem. And
I will say
it's hard to really support in a game without it being kind of,
I will say that your best way to do that would actually be to take a Horde Wars wizard and go play him in that world with a bunch of scrolls.
With a bunch of scrolls.
Because
that's the way you get around that.
Because the rules compatibility is close enough. You could totally do that. But in our Supers game, we have left out magic as the norm on purpose. We wanted a clear delineation between here's fantasy and here's futuristic superheroes.
Sure. So Iron Man or Professor X type stuff.
Yeah.
Not the Doctor Strange and Dr. Druid and all those.
Right. Yep.
And we do have careers that are more human based than just supers.
I think you guys have a good framework for what you want your superheroes world to be like. So it's not any superhero you could possibly imagine
Anything
from
goes.
any comic book, but you can get the feel of a lot of superheroes that, like their Spider-Man comment, you can definitely get the feel for that guy by making a certain character. So I think there's some advantages, but more.
Yeah, we really had to hide that one though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one they are super litigious about.
Oh, I'm sure.
In any case.
So you guys have a framework you're working on, which isn't. In this game you can build any superhero you can imagine, from any product. You really can't.
Pretty nearly.
What I'm saying is you've limited the power level.
Yes.
And by limiting the power level, you've limited the scope of the characters. You can conceptualize different superheroes, but not reach all of their abilities.
Exactly.
Right.
Within limits, right? So there's some that you could, but some that you can't.
Yeah. So on to monsters though. Just wanted to be clear about what it is we're working on presently for people who wanted to know.
Okay, so what I was wondering with monsters, what was your? Because I've gotten a little peek. I've worked with you a little bit, Todd, but I want to know when you guys sit down to make a monster, what is your first thing you look at? What are you thinking about as you create a monster? I mean, I have some ideas listening to you talk about it behind the scenes, but what are you thinking about when you design? We're going to create a dragon for our game.
Oh, sure.
Mhm.
Um,
How do you begin that thought process?
well, kind of looking at the floor and the ceiling of how powerful do we want this thing to be? And are we wanting it to fight in groups or solo? Because, there's some definite like action economy considerations for making it an interesting encounter. It's pretty boring if you have an opponent who can only do one thing around and is kind of slow and just has lots of hit points. Some monsters can be that way, but that's a bad norm. It's also a bad norm to have like what should be a boss monster, especially in Dungeons and Dragons, where it's in the name, who maybe just dies in one round.
Yeah.
And so you wanna think about, okay, for a dragon, what's the minimum just to be a dragon, and how dangerous does this thing get? So you'll see, because in medieval, and also we tried to, as much as we could, be influenced by the real world,
Okay.
because that helps you, the random person reading our book, have a better insight into what we're doing. You don't have to know us.
We took a lot more from the actual historical accounts, like the classical view, rather than necessarily the D&D view.
Right.
So you lean into a version of medieval European gameplay.
Well, and some classical as well. So,
Right.
for example, we've got minotaurs or medusas or this kind of thing.
Right.
And we also have some monsters that don't exist except in our game, like that we made because we thought they were cool. And you may or may not agree, but I pretty much guarantee you there aren't many other games in which your players will be terrified of a single snail.
Right. What's that one called? Is it not the dream snail? Is it
Siren snail?
Siren snail? Oh yeah, you don't want to mess with that dude. He is a. Oh my goodness.
Well, it's not just a snail.
No, he's awesome. No, yeah, he will screw
If it's
you
just
up.
a snail, you don't care. But if it's a snail that can ensnare your mind and then devour you,
Not the mine snail. It's a mine snail. Yeah, he's cool.
But so for dragons, for example, we were like, all right, do we want wyverns? Like that was a question we asked, and the answer was yes. So what's the difference? Wyverns aren't as smart. Wyverns, we decided for our setting, would be 2 legs and wings, whereas dragons would be 4 legs and wings as the norm. Gotcha. And so there's a visual distinction. Also, wyverns are like, just like a beast, right?
Yeah,
because like a pterodactyl would be a kind of wyvern looking thing. Whereas the dragons are definitely fantastical monsters. We're like, well, what's defining about them? A breath weapon is definitely one of the cooler things, I think. A terrifying roar that they can make. Also, in general, the dragons in mythology or in old history tend to be unique individuals.
Right.
Like they were different from one another. I suspect it's based on the descriptions that in some cases they were fighting the last of the dinosaurs, because some of them line up real good with dinosaurs that we know about now. Some of their descriptions. But we're going to go with fantastical creatures, though, that are are different from one another, so you have to know about that one.
Okay.
There's stuff that's true. Dragons fly, or dragons can breathe some kind of element. Okay.
Right.
But Bardock the Stormbringer is going to be a very different fight for you than Corvash the Nightfire. Because not just is it lightning versus fire, but one of them can call volcanic ash down and make it so you can't breathe within like 48 yards of him. That matters quite a bit, actually.
Oh, sure. Breathing is important.
Yep.
And knowing that before you fight him is key.
Yes,
Sure,
that would
sure.
suck.
Well,
Yeah, I haven't
knowing
got to use
that,
a dragon yet.
yeah, so
And
knowing
then-
that dragons are all unique individuals instead of there's red dragons and green dragons and gold dragons, and there's all the colors of the rainbow, and then maybe some pseudo in between colors, and
Right.
there's all the age categories, and you've got a whole landscape where there could be thousands and thousands of dragons running around, and well, that's not very reasonable because there
Right.
wouldn't be anything else but dragons.
Right. So ours are unique individuals, but there's they're essentially set up at 3 levels of difficulty. So in the basic, you'll find the weakest dragons, 3 or 4 of them, and then you'll find one of the middle threat level dragons. Because he should just kill a 4th level party.
Right.
He should. But, with the right gear, some luck, or good planning, you might take him out.
Planning.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Now I can't remember what
so the
level.
dragons are all unique.
Yeah.
Do you remember what level we were when we tackled that dragon at?
Your
Adam
character was one level ahead of the others. So it was either you were 4th and they were 3rd, or you were 5th
Yeah.
and they were 4th.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah. And 5th level character where I think that you did tell me what to do as a tier 2.
Yeah.
That was a nice bump.
Yeah.
Did you? I was noticing too in the monster design. I was double checking. You guys did hit points in multiples of 6.
Yes.
What was there? Is there something to that you liked, or something through playtest you found was right? Because setting the difficulty, hit points are part of the difficulty.
So you two are the math guys, you and Nate.
Sure.
But the reason is because our most common damage dice, right,
Mm-hmm.
are D12s, D6s, and D8s.
Gotcha.
You got some D10s in there as well. But so in general, 6 hit points represents 1 max damage hit from a D12.
Sure.
If they have protection,
Right.
or 1 max damage hit from a D6 if they don't.
Gotcha.
I'm thinking dragons have protection from everything.
No.
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No. We do have a
It
monster
varies.
or two like that, but no, the dragons do have weaknesses.
So when you assign abilities, how do you mentioned that the arch, we won't see the arch lich till advanced, but even the lich, let me see if I can find him real quick. He's
Sure.
got quite a few abilities. And where did you draw a line where you said, I don't want to, because I feel like all your monsters are very manageable. There's not like I recall the lich here I am. He has a bunch.
There's a ton of theory crafting and
Yeah.
field
Lich has
testing.
got
I mean,
a page full of awesomeness, right? But
Yeah.
Oh, so you play tested and saw what was best.
there's a lot of variation, through times for a lot of those abilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which that's why playtesting's there for. Going, hey, did that work or not work?
Yeah,
So
we
we
had that in
basically-
playtesting for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dragons originally didn't have 1 or 2 of them had the sandstorm and stuff of that nature.
Mhm.
And we basically played into that. They're also forces of nature in what is now basic and advanced.
Mhm.
But that was an
Yeah.
ability that came later because we were like, they need something to make them pop more. Other than, hey, they breathe fire, they, all roar, they all fly, they all like eating things.
And they all have some unique hunting style.
Yep.
Hmm.
But
So-
it became into that we needed something to differentiate them from each other.
So do any of them have weird diets like in D&D lore? some dragons eat gems or gold or other weird things other than creatures.
Well, I think on the whole, we wanted to stick with the more classic theme of given a choice, they'd prefer to eat your daughter.
Okay.
Okay. If she was a virgin.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of the classic trope, and it's one of the reasons that the medieval and ancient peoples, when they describe dragons, like the dragons normally would like have killed several people from the town and in the story, and then the hero or heroes go and kill them.
Right.
Like the dragons were a problem not because they were alive, but because they kept eating people.
Right. And
Even
they like people.
Yeah, even in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the dragon they fight in that is a problem because whenever they try to cut lumber in the forests of Lebanon, he'll come and try to eat the loggers. So the reason they kill him isn't because they want to go dragon hunting, it's because they want lumber.
Right.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So,
But then, like other creatures like giants, we've had harder times to differentiate them. Like, how do they different on other things? Because the abilities.
oh, and
Right.
are there a lot of different kinds of giants, or maybe just a few?
So for the ogres, right? What's the difference in your view between them and like a hill giant in
Not
D&D?
much. Height is about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that was our impression as well. So we
Yeah.
wanted something that made them stand out. So we decided to make our giants high technology and our ogres low technology. So our giants are doing stuff like wearing plate armor and using
Ooh.
spring steel for crossbows, whereas our ogres are running around in loincloths with clubs.
Yeah.
Okay. Spring steel crossbows.
Yep.
That sounds like a bunch of ouch time to me.
That does sound rough.
Right.
Yeah. So when you're making these monsters, did you basically just? I mean, like the hit point differential is pretty massive between monsters and player characters for the most part, and that makes sense. But did you have to just play test to sort of get a feel as to where you wanted them to be?
Yeah.
Because you guys have put, how many say, over 1,000 hours of play test into basic?
Easy. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Probably
I'm
like
the one that said more hit
1,500.
points, more hit points, more hit points.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, monsters should have a lot of hit points. Really.
Yeah.
Because if the monster has a few hit points like the players, they'll never get their abilities. They'll never show their
Right.
abilities. So, and
But-
why would you call them monsters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
If you could just push
can't
them over.
solve the problem always with additional hit points.
Right.
Is
Right,
the
right.
problem. And so you have to find other ways that the players could possibly exploit, possibly not, to help boss monsters stick. There are other kind of monsters you don't have to make them stick because they're supposed to fight in groups. Zombies, it's fine if you kill a zombie in one hit.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
that's
sure.
okay.
There's 50 more of them.
Yeah, yeah. But
the
if you're
lid shouldn't
dealing
go down in one hit.
right. And so
And-
how does our Lich stay alive? Did you guys notice?
I haven't read the Lich yet, so I don't know.
Randy,
have
you
not.
had him pulled up.
I did. So looking at the Lich.
Yeah. Read his traits and you tell me how he stays up.
Oh, wow. Life drain.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty sweet.
Takes away your hit points. Ha.
No. What does it say?
It
That's
says,
not what life
the
drain
first
does?
time you drop an opponent to 0 hit points during each round of combat, you regain your full hit
Ah.
points.
Well, their goal is to basically drop characters,
Right.
Sure. So they're going to
and that
focus
gives them
fire
a
on them.
certain, play style.
Sure, they'll direct all of their attacks against one person instead of spread them out. Mostly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brutal.
And so,
And it doesn't matter how they drop them,
Right.
whether
like,
they claw them or use a spell, if that's what they do.
yeah, like the vampires, they do have their bite, which they get the health back,
Right.
but their other attacks do more damage. So it's kind of this question of, do I need the health or do I actually, just want to kill you?
Right.
Okay, so with the Lich, when you say drop a character, does that mean that they're rolling their however many rounds they have till they die, or that they're dead?
When you drop an opponent to 0 hit points, so it's the hit points that are definitional, not whether or not you have actually died.
Right.
Oh, so what I mean as far as life drain. So
Yeah.
when they do
Yeah.
that,
So the
That
0 hit
mean-
points.
0 hit points. It doesn't mean when they've life drained you, you are toast.
Correct.
You still have a chance of coming back. Okay.
Yep. You still have your bleed out timer, which without intervention you will die. But
Right.
Yes.
So we've done that. So with the monsters, as much as we can, we're trying to give them like for the boss monsters, a unique way or a fairly unique way to fight you or to oppose you. For example, our Banshee can do a multi-opponent paralyzing shriek, which gives him the opportunity to then, or him or her, the opportunity to then claw you to death.
Well, Banshees weren't they, according to lore, all females? No,
That's a D&D thing.
that's just a D&D thing. Okay, I thought
As far
that
as
they
I can
got
tell,
that
yeah.
from lore.
Yeah.
But no, they just made that.
I think D&D makes it even more narrow. I think it's supposed to be like
Elven
females.
suburban
Female elf,
females or something.
And she had a death well. You literally had to save her die. So
Yeah.
it was deadly.
Whereas the
That's cool.
poltergeist, who's also a ghost, like the Banshee, like his cool ability is terrifying you and giving you affliction, or seizing control of your body and puppeting you, or just hurling objects around.
Yeah.
So when you're making monsters like that, have you found that to be, where would you rank that in the enjoyment side of design? Do you really like making monsters, or is that more of a chore?
Depends what they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoy it, but I would say that it is easier to do the NPC character design than the monsters.
Yeah.
Because they tend to have already had some elements of them play tested with our building the careers. Whereas the monsters often need like some boutique ability designed, tested, repeatedly tested, and then usually edited to make it a little more idiot proof. Sometimes we're the idiots. Sometimes we go right back in and go, what did we mean here?
Yeah, the whole scentability for canines, it's just brr.
So, speaking of NPCs and careers, are all humanoid beings that are not monsters, do they fall under the career types? Do all NPCs, do they all have a or multiple careers, or are there NPCs that are distinct or built differently than the
Generally.
PCs?
So yeah, generally the NPCs in Horde Wars are single career characters. Children wouldn't be; they wouldn't be in a career at all yet.
Right.
And there are some more advanced ones who are multi-career, but that's quite rare. In general, being in two careers is one of the things that sets apart the player characters as more powerful in the game world. Now, every once in a while, you'll get every once in a while you get an NPC who breaks a game rule. For example, we have a named character for advanced who has 2 maneuvers around, not 1. And he's just a very skilled blade master.
But maneuvers for him still work the same as maneuvers for everybody else.
Correct. Other than that, he has 2, not 1.
He has 2. Okay. That's
and
fine.
So like that, so the thing was, they're named. So like they're a person, not the stat block.
So that would be like Inigo Montoya. He works differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And some of the more advanced, this is more in the advanced game, like the people on the high end might have abilities that characters can get, but because they like broke through tier 4 or something, we kind of have this idea, especially supers, their abilities might be slightly elevated. And there might be ways to get to that level. Does that make sense? Oh,
yeah. But that's more for the superhero game.
That's more of the superhero game.
Yeah, so to tiers, there's 3 or 4? 3?
There's 3.
3 tiers. Right. That's what I thought. Okay. Monsters. Yes. Something we talked about before coming on live. In the monster stat blocks, they're all, when you read them, it says you. So I've already talked about to you why I was confused with that. Why don't you tell people, there might be other people out there who read them and says you. That's interesting. Why don't you explain
Let
that?
me give you an example text, right? So people understand what we're talking about. So the false door has an action called bite. It's a natural weapon. And what it says is make 2 attacks against targets within 2 combat spaces for 2d10 piercing damage. Any creature damaged by these attacks has his speed reduced to 0 until the end of your next turn. Your, here, being the monster, the false door. And we are writing that way for a couple reasons, one of which is actually just spacing. If you write this creature, this monster, or write out the name of the monster, it tends to take longer, like to read, but also to fit on a page. And as much as possible, we tried to design our monsters to be on a single page, or on a quarter of a single page, or a half, so that there's not just a bunch of wasted space because we weren't efficient at writing.
Right.
But also, you, the game master, are not in fact in the game world. It's the avatars of the monsters and villains and NPCs of various sorts that you're controlling. That's who's in the game world, not you personally, unless you have a very odd game.
Right.
So that being said, that effectively is you. You are the real human mind who is controlling those characters, or those monsters, or those animals. Whereas for the players, their only avatar in the world is their character. For functional purposes, that's you. I mean, it's not you, the human, playing the game, but that's your interface with the world.
Right. Right. A lot of people want you to speak in a particular person. I switch around he, me, say my character's name. It's no big deal to me. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't harm my experience at all. But some folks like to be sticklers with that stuff.
Yeah.
And when I saw you in there, I was just kind of, what's that about? And after you explained it, I was like, oh, okay. I understand where you're coming from.
A lot of it too is we're trying to be consistent in the language throughout, and that just seemed to be the best condensed way.
So the same ability reads the same way in different places.
Right. Oh yeah, you can just copy paste if it's the same ability. Yeah.
Did you guys decide to group the monsters like beast, monsters, NPCs? How did you label the NPCs?
So an NPC is just a non-player character, but they're still a character in terms of they are, this isn't how we explain it in the game rules, but for our purposes, a person with a soul.
Yeah.
No, he's asking about grouping the.
I mean, like you have beast, and you did all the beasts in alphabetical order. Then you're the monsters in alphabetical order, and the NPCs.
Yeah.
What did you have a reason for that, and not just easier to find?
Yeah. Well, one, we have special weapons that are especially good at killing certain kinds of creatures, whether it be beasts or monsters or other characters. And this isn't new. Tolkien does this. The Witcher series does this. There's a whole bunch of fantasy literature where this is an idea, and so it's an idea we also have, and so they're sorted that way to make it kind of easy for you to distinguish them. But also, there's generally speaking a difference in mental capacity or behavior between those different groupings.
Okay. Well, I was thinking more of how you put it in the book itself. You have a beast category than a monster, because I first found myself when I was rummaging through, I would be looking through, the monsters. Like, I can't find this creature, and I was like, and I was like, because it's. Then I realized it was alphabetized according to
creature type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side comment. I can't seem to comment on YouTube. I have no idea why, but
I also can't. I tried to do it earlier and it failed on my end.
It's because you're not logged in. I can comment on YouTube because I'm also viewing the stream.
I seem to be logged in. Yeah.
So I go to the other window and I can do it. But in any case, that sorting, we originally tried out a greater variety of creature types.
Mm-hmm.
And we found in playtesting that a streamlined set of 3 or 4 worked much better because the players could remember them all.
Gotcha.
And this is pretty intuitive, where it's real world animals or very close to real world animals are
Mhm.
beasts. And then monsters are generally unnatural creatures or monstrous versions of a beast, right?
Very very simplified compared to like Pathfinder or 3.5,
Yeah.
where we had all these million
Yeah.
different categories.
First way, we started about 7 creature types,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it just got
Too much.
Well, no,
Yeah.
we could track it, but the
Yeah.
playtesters couldn't.
couldn't.
And did you also have more material types to handle all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, we had sort of the monster split into 2 categories, where it's you have general monsters and you had like shadow spawn.
Yeah.
So we've removed that, which is what kind of where the Witchwood was like, it's the shadow spawn area,
Mhm.
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
But now it's more like, hey, just monsters live there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And one of the other things that now some of that material did get kept just in a different way. So
Yep.
when you go into the basic rules and you hop over to the table where you can roll for magic weapons of various kinds, artifact weapons. So that's going to be on pages 154, 155. Some of those special material types wound up there. So an example of that, the idea. So like we have, let's see here. There we go. So we've got blood forged. So those weapons are made in a special process, and they do an extra die of damage against any creature that is below its maximum hit points.
Oh, okay.
And so it behaves differently than like the silver or the bronze or the black iron. Or we have the colossal material, and essentially, colossal weapons have to be built in a special way for giant creatures to wield, but they do two dice of damage instead of 1 all the time.
Oh, okay.
But you have for a character, you have to have some special abilities to be able to pick it up and use it at all.
Right. Makes sense.
Or Dawnfire, extra die of damage during the day. Nightfire, extra die of damage during the night.
Oh, okay.
So there are other materials, but we've got them embedded in the in artifacts that you can discover.
Oh, okay.
That sounds cool.
Now, we've talked a little bit about, talking to you a little bit in the Supers game, designing foes. Do you often, when you look at your list of monsters as they're building up, do you go, man, we don't have enough monsters that make it difficult for characters to move in the battlefield? Or we don't have enough monsters that tend to shut down spellcasters? Do you think in that category too, once you built an array, you had 20, 30, 50 monsters, you're like, I feel like we don't have enough that does this sort of thing. Do you think like that too?
I think that's one of the things that Nate actually does quite a bit.
So, because a lot of it is you have all these options, and the question is, if you keep randomly put them together, do you always end up at the same point?
Right.
Can you get to that weird possibility?
Mhm.
And so that's where you kind of look at it going, okay, so we have, using the supers, like cold controller and a cold blaster. They're slightly different, like they're different careers. And you don't always want to just put them together. And so then the question is, okay, how do we divvy those out? Like, what roles do they fill? I know back in Horde Wars, we always wanted more trap monsters, like a spider that would lay like nests or something, and you get stuck in them.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I like those.
so we've got a few of them, but those are challenging to design.
Yeah.
And importantly, challenging to design in a way that the players might ever fight them more than once. Because once they identify them, they will avoid them like the plague.
Yeah.
Okay. I made an encounter. I didn't invent a brand new monster, but I just made an encounter, and I called this giant spider a trapdoor spider. It wasn't. I just used the spider as is, but I had it camouflage a section of road, or camouflaged its trap as a section of road. And when the characters were walking down the road going from A to B, well, they just fell in the trap. There really wasn't a roll. I just made it happen. So,
Yeah.
And they fall in the trap, and then they fight the spider and its many children. So, and that was just, I can't remember, was that Pathfinder or something? I think it was Pathfinder. So just to say, I mean, you don't necessarily have to have, I guess with the way Horde Wars is designed, you probably wouldn't want to just use one of those spiders and do that. You're going to have a spider that does that.
Oh,
right?
no, you can do that. We've got traps and such like that. You could totally just combine them that way. But I think what Nate's more getting at is we wanted to make sure that we have cool creatures with unique abilities. And so, I mean, that's challenging when you're getting into designing a couple hundred.
Yes. That's what I was wondering.
And so that took some time.
Sure,
and
because you don't want that much overlap.
Because there's a bunch in there, like, you go, I need to have this, like, vampire analog.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is it going to look like? And then later on, you're going, well, we have this desert biome. We need something that lives there, you know. And so then that kind of fills in kind of like gaps, and then going, okay, what makes this great? Because there's a lot of basic creatures. You're like, why is it not in there? Well, it's really the same thing as this, just in a different location.
Yeah, like we didn't put a tiger in there because we've got a lion and a manticore and a panther, and if you really need a tiger stat block, you can probably get one right there.
Yeah, I agree.
Big cat is a big cat.
Yeah.
Did any of your monster design ever lead to change in character design?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you give an example of how that may have worked?
Vampire hunter.
Okay.
It literally originally was to kill vampires.
Right.
So back to that Shadowborn.
Shadowspawn.
Where they would do an extra die damage against them because vampires were that. And then when that creature type went away, we're like, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And then we made it more generic kind of monster slayer type.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the Huntsman in the end is a much stronger design than our original, which was a explicitly vampire hunter.
Okay.
There's a similar type of class in
Hyperborea.
It's called a huntsman, I think, a hunter or huntsman, something like that. But they hunt werewolves.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they have a designated creature, and they are good at hunting werewolves. Of course, they're hunters in general as well, but they go after the.
And my character's a vampire
werewolves.
hunter, and I think the big advantage I get is an extra level of. I can basically ignore one level of affliction, which is pretty sweet. Actually, that's a very sweet ability, by the way. I mean, affliction is bad news. So
when you get to it, yeah,
when you get a couple of them, you're like, even one does suck, but 2 or 3, you're hosed.
Yep.
So. Yeah.
But there's a lot of creatures we're going, if we want them to do this, there needs to be a way for the players to undo that. Like Disenchant there's a whole lot more things on Disenchant now than it was originally because we needed some way to undo that.
And
especially when you got to witches.
And that wasn't relying on you just having a priest.
Yep.
We found playtesting that not every party has a healer.
Right.
Well, it's the historical thing is players want the healer to do the healing, but the player of the healer, the cleric, wants to be up there smacking things with their mace. And then, when people whine about, you haven't healed me yet this round, so
I think
live till the end of the fight, then you get healed.
I think Horde Wars has a neat way to handle that. Yeah. I like the fact that you can benefit from one potion, and the healer only has so many options. And even though I'm the medic, the healer guy, I have some powers. I can slap some things around, and I can put things to sleep, which is pretty sweet.
So
Oh,
was
there-
that consideration a balance thing?
Balance and also make a more deadly world. So we kind of started this. We didn't want easy street. We wanted more of the old timey feel of older editions.
Right.
And the easiest way to do that is too many people got used to the idea I can just keep chugging healing potions to them set.
Yep.
Like I used to run Pathfinder Society as a venture officer, and like the big thing everyone did there was buy wands of cure light wounds or less.
That was the most effective healing thing in the game, hands
and so
down.
it's like, hey, the fight's done. Okay, tap, 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 tap. Okay, I'm good. I can go on.
Yeah. They're cheap.
Yeah.
You can use them all day.
And also the inability to heal in the wilderness, other than with potions or with a caster, I think really helps increase the danger level.
Yep.
As well as making your inventory matter.
Yeah, you really did that. Got a bone to pick with that.
Joe loved the
worry.
big scrolls. That was great.
They had to buy a pack mule.
I loved it.
Yep.
Joe, you want that. You want pack mules and all these extra
I
party
do,
NPCs running around.
and that's why I had a couple
Crap.
of questions about the steeds and stuff at the beginning before we got online. I
Yes.
was looking at that stuff and was trying to wade through having that. And then, how do we have a manservant in this game? Can you just hire people to follow you around?
So
you can.
Dominion play.
Huh?
Yes. Yeah, so domain play includes
Domain play.
all of the pricing on hiring people and also what they would individually yield in taxes, but then it also has it based on like settlement size and this kind of thing.
Right. But if I just wanted to have
if you wanted to just hire a mercenary, that pricing's already in basic. Just go to the mercenaries and look.
okay, so if I don't want to have someone to fight for me, which is no, I just want to have if we want to just have camp followers that we just have set up and break down and cook our food and carry our stuff.
Yep.
Because we're better than that.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, cool. Because
you can
that is
hire a
important.
scroll carrier.
Scroll bearer.
I
Scroll
see your
caddy.
plan.
A scroll
Oh,
scroll
do
caddy.
you guys have
I mean, there's always Derek, the woodsman.
Oh yeah, in the 'cause he'll go with you.
Derek is not kind, but you can definitely hire him.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean he's gruff, but he functions as a party member. If you want to take him, he'll help.
Yeah, there's also a crusader like that you can hire at Fireheart Keep.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Will he be he won't be gruff, but he might be kind of preachy?
Yeah.
Or okay. Are there like bags of holding kind of things?
Oh yeah. There are not like that you can purchase, if that's what you mean. Then Nate's quite correct.
No, I mean find.
Yeah.
Extra
There
dimensional
are
spaces
treasure. Yeah.
that you can carry around and hold more stuff.
Yep. There are magic items that will increase your carrying capacity in different ways.
Okay, that's cool. So yeah, so I think what I had more of a problem with when you were talking about the scrolls is that the reference to how scrolls were. So to me, having anachronisms or relying a lot on historical stuff, and you guys base a lot in historical stuff as a baseline.
Yep.
But to me, a potion and a scroll having an equivalent carrying capacity is a little weird, but I think it's not from weight or volume, because you say standard item. So I think it's more from a balance perspective or difficulty level for your game. So you can only carry so many potions or scrolls. If you paper doesn't weigh anything. So you could say that magical paper might have more weight, but paper doesn't weigh a whole lot, but the scrolls do take up a lot of volume. So I get that.
You also should remember that at least for any period before really the last 300 years, paper really does weigh quite a bit because it's made of things like cowhide. It's
Well,
not.
then that's not paper.
No, that's parchment, but that's what scrolls
Yeah.
were made with, or it's made with multiple layers of pressed plant, like papyrus.
Right.
Which those scrolls weren't particularly small either. The fragments are when you find a broken one,
Sure.
but if you see one intact, like it's the size of your forearm.
Right.
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 So if you're trying to carry,
that being said, though, that thing, I mean, how big are we saying a potion bottle is? So, and how usable is it? So, but
right.
I'm not going to get into the weeds with that. I wouldn't say it would be that big because can you down a potion like that in one go?
One thing I think that will help visually is we actually have a guy working on item artwork currently. You guys know him, David Guile?
Yeah.
Well, he's working on item artwork.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter a whole lot because I think if you get too far into the weeds with how big is a potion bottle, how big is that, then you're talking about something different than what you guys are doing with your standard item mechanic, because your standard items aren't all uniform.
No,
correct.
In size and volume and weight.
Correct.
So it's more usability.
Yes,
If
I think
it's
it's
awfully
also
useful, it's going to be at least a standard item and maybe bulky. Like swords, they're all bulky, pretty much, because they're really useful.
And they want to make it a little grittier. That's kind of, I mean, because they have so much fantastic stuff going on. At least here, and I liked it. I mean, I liked that we had Joe couldn't have 47.
Yeah, but you're stingy, so
yeah.
your opinion don't matter.
It will next week when I'm running.
Well, Joe, I'll just tell you, you can blame me on your scrolls and magic items being standard items.
Yeah,
because I was the one that ultimately made that decision.
I don't blame you, Nate. I love you for it. Well done.
It took me a little while to get to where you guys were probably thinking, along with some historical issues, but also how useful they are. If you can carry any number of scrolls or potions,
right, then
the game is different than what you guys are going for. You guys are going for a grittier game.
Right. But also, we were trying to address a problem that we noticed in a lot of role-playing games, which is non-standardized units of measurement, which make it just a giant pain in the butt to calculate encumbrance.
Yes.
Right. We standardize units of measurement with the simplest system we could think of that still had some weighting of value of things.
Yeah, value from different points of view, though. Right. Because scrolls are really, really useful.
Extremely.
And
we should have bought the hay scroll.
What you don't have in Horde Wars is the wizard with a big thick tome that knows lots of spells. Off the top, just knows them. But you can have somewhat, you can get there somewhat with scrolls, but you have to watch your inventory, or you have a scroll boy, or
you find one of the ancient tomes from the magic items.
Oh, we haven't come across those yet.
No, you haven't.
That's cool. Hey, I'm trying to rush you guys. It's past 9. Do you guys need to go?
Oh, yes. The group has gathered at my home. I've tried to keep them as quiet as possible. You can say hi now, guys.
Hey, you guys.
We didn't hear them.
That's cool.
That's fine. I've done what I can with that. But so I should get going, and then Nate should head over here soon. But it's been great being on.
Yes, thank you guys.
I'm looking forward to gaming with you guys again in January.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Randy, hopefully I'll see you for some game design in a week or two.
Very soon, yes.
And Joe, you let me know.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Nathan and DM Blackwall from Blackwall Games. If you've not gotten Horde Wars Basic, stick around. You got to have a chance for a free one. Take care, guys.
Yep. Enjoy.
See you
Thank
later.
you all for having us.
See ya.
Yeah, you're welcome. Everybody go find Horde Wars stuff over at Big Geek Emporium. It is up. It's a little slow, but it is working. We've had some sales, we've had some other activity, so please go there, biggeekemporium.com, get that PDF or contact DM Blackwall. Let me see if I can paste that.
Blackwall Games, it's in our Thanks for Brian James. He was one of our partners in crime this past week. He played with us, showed us how to learn some stuff. He's a good player. It's nice to have him around. It was very fun running the game or playing the game. Hope to be running it soon, and I'll have a report.
Okay, so that had some gobbledygook in it. Let me try that again and get
You
rid of the
gobbledygook them. I can't do anything right because apparently I've pissed off. I've pissed off YouTube or something because I cannot comment on YouTube. I can only comment through here. Horde Wars at blackwallgames.com. That's it, Joe. All right. Yeah, our man said Biggie Emporium wouldn't load last night. Hopefully it's getting better. I'm not sure why that would be the case. They should be done with their transition, right, Joe?
Yeah, they never sent me an official message on that because they told me when it's done, we'll let you know and give you some next steps so that you can take care of your site well. Well, they didn't do that.
See why English, I don't like technology?
Yeah, well, the English isn't their first language, so maybe there's some communication issues there.
No. Well, we got 3 Horde Wars PDFs to give away. Should we go ahead and do that?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to say this again, just in case some of you folks who are here now weren't here earlier, but were here last week, and perhaps some of you are the ones who won last week who did not email us to tell us the email to send your link. I'm going to post the email. Actually, I'm going to post this one this time. The Geeks at, sorry. I was typing, but I wasn't going anywhere. The Geeks at biggestgeekuspodcast.com.
Yep.
Oh, not podcasty. Sorry.
Drop the letter Y off that.
Drop that Y.
There's Mark Markham.
Yeah, Mark Markham.
Yeah, send us your email to that new email thingy.
Yeah, not the drop the Y after podcast. I added a Y for some reason. I don't know why.
Don't know why he swallowed a fly.
Yeah. So we need to give away some PDFs.
Let's do it, man.
Yes, if you have not won one. If you have not won a copy of the PDF of Horde Wars from us yet, and you would like one, we're giving them away.
3 more tonight. This will be our last 3 before the big holidays, Christmas, man. Sweet.
Oh, our man asked, can I gift the PDF to my friend? Sure. I'm going to send you a link. You can send him the link, and it'll be a done deal.
I think he's assuming he wins, which he might be. I'm not sure how many folks are going to want one that are here tonight. So you want to tell them to put the 1 in the chat so we can give them a minute or 2?
Yes. If you want the PDF and you have use for it, even if you have won it already, put in a 1 in the chat. You already gifted 8 of them.
Way to go, Brian.
So yeah, put a 1 in the comment, and you will be in the running for 1 of 3. We're going to give away 3.
All right, Arnman and Halcyon both are in the running for the PDF. 1 more person, we give them all away. We'll give you another minute. So Christmas is coming, Joe. I'm pretty pumped. I love Christmas. Are you all ready for it? Have you bought all your gifts and got your tree up and all ready to roll?
We got our tree up.
Okay.
We got we sent out our Christmas cards. We meant to bring Christmas cards. We went to Pat's for a Christmas party.
Shindig, yep.
And we didn't bring our cards that we could have just handed them. It was a missed opportunity.
Shucks. So. Now you must travel around all the Tri-City area.
Well, we just dumped a bunch of them in the mail.
Right, right. We have been so sidetracked with some of our health issues at home. Oh, we got Larry Elliott and Arnman and Halcyon. We'll give them another minute or so, or we're going to give it 30 seconds.
Yeah, we'll give 1 more minute because we've been jaw-jacking here. We'll give you 1 more minute. So far, we have 3, and we have 3 left.
If no one else goes on there, those 3 folks are getting it. That's right. Halcyon is off from the 21st. I have a friend in town, Halcyon. I wanted to game with you. Hopefully we can. I'd like you to meet my buddy. So
Well, I've got at least got a 3-day weekend.
good. Well, we're going to figure it out. That's probably the Horde Wars game. So we got to figure that one out. It's going to be a big day event. We're going to make that our Black River Valley playtest game. We're using Horde Wars this time just to mess around with it. So
Sure.
So we got 3 folks, I think, right now.
Aren't we doing that as a New Year's Day thing and not?
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yes, I can do that. I got a lot of free time. Halcyon's off from the 21st to the 2nd, so he and I need to get together and play some. I haven't seen our pal Halcyon yet, and then the 13th, I think we're having our business meeting for CabinCon, which I do believe Nathan and Blackwall are going to be at CabinCon again.
That's
So-
that's great.
And
All
at
right.
Big Geek Con. So
And Big Geek Con.
yeah,
All right.
baby.
Looks like we have 3 to give away.
We have 3
We
winners.
3 winners, and I'm going to post.
It'll be Arnman, Halcyon, and Larry Elliott. So we know we know all of them, actually. We've met every one of them. So good dudes. I'm glad they got it. Most of these people here, if I haven't met, I'd really like to, because our people at chat are super awesome. So hoping this year that at least one, if not both, the biggest geekists are going to make it out to Grand Con and maybe further. We'll see.
Okay, I think I
Oh,
have it right.
yes. Piper should come again. She was cool. We're going to try to make it bigger and better every year. A little bit bigger, a little bit better, or at least a little bit better. It may not be bigger. I like the size of Big Geek Con.
Ping me at the geeks at biggestgeekestpodcast.com. I have another email you can use if you've previously emailed me. Just go ahead and send it to there. Either one is good, but definitely if you have not emailed me personally yet, send it to the geeks at biggestgeekestpodcast.com. Ping me that way. I can then send you the winners a link to the PDF. I cannot email it directly. It's too big.
Yes. Very cool. Well,
Armin,
Joe, it's
can you write down the winners?
I can.
Write down the winners. Do you know who won last week that hasn't? I know we got
Mark
one.
Markham is going to contact you. Dice Tales won, and so did
Joyce.
Joyce. Or
So
Joyce,
Dice
yep.
Tales, if you're listening but not participating in the chat, please send me an email so I can get you the link to the PDF.
Yes, Larry Elliott, Halcyon, and Arnman do the link sending or the email sending to Joe there at the geeks at biggestgeekestpodcast.com.
All the other ones have been sent out.
Well, dude, it's 9:17. Do you want to call it, or do you want to talk about anything? Do you want to do any other segments I put on there? What do you think?
Let's see here. These.
One of them's a little
Uh,
timely, but we could skip it. It's not a huge deal.
Didn't we talk about this before? Whose
Which
game
one?
is it?
We may have, so we can hold off on that. I also added one about the Hasbro layoffs, but why don't we just let that go? I don't see that as
Okay.
all that interesting, other than
No.
Hasbro sucks, and we knew that
The
already.
only interesting thing about that is we got some cool stuff from the demos.
Yeah, and didn't have to give Hasbro a dime, which is nice.
yeah, for free, and it's stuff. The stuff that they gave me is universal. It's
Nice.
just some tiles,
Very cool. Very cool.
game tiles, so that you can use for any game,
All right.
any
man.
fantasy game.
Excellent.
All right, yeah. Oh, you know what? Whose game is it anyway? I think that this was a segment that we dropped before.
Yeah, well, I'll put it on the next one. We'll do it. Well, Mac, I feel a little sorry for the people in around Christmas time getting laid off, even if they are purple hairs, like you said. But you know what? I hope you'd like to think they could purge them and get rid of of those crazy bozos. But who's to say they won't replace them with someone worse? D&D, as far as I'm concerned, seems to be a lost cause unless WotC sells it off, or unless Hasbro sells it off. Yeah. Patrick has Joyce's copy. Yeah,
Yes.
sweet.
Yeah, with Hasbro, I mean, I don't want to wish bad feelings or anything like that, bad karma, whatever you want to call it, on people that I don't know. But there's probably any big corporation has that's been run poorly, like Hasbro,
Mhm.
especially with respect to D&D. They probably have more people than they need, and it's
Well-
bad. It's bad for the extra employees. but we're in a recession.
Yeah.
Companies are going to lay people off in a recession. That's just
Yeah.
the way it works.
But you know, I said this over 2 years ago. I would love for WotC to go out of business altogether. Someone else pick up D&D and take off with it. Someone that's got a, you know, ahead and at least in our direction, leaning toward us a little bit. But you know, it'll probably never happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right, Arn, man.
Sure. I mean, the good thing is, if you liked D&D before Wizards, before 5th edition, before the era, like anything, even 4th edition. 4th edition wasn't really a woke thing. 4th edition was just ill-conceived, I think.
I never cared for it. So,
but all the game material exists in its original form from that era and before. Yep. So if you liked all that stuff, you can still play that, right? You don't have to give Wizards of the Coast any money to play D&D if you have the older stuff.
Yep.
If you don't, then you might have to pony up some extra dough to get the physical copies from like eBay or whatever, or get lucky like Mr. Demo did and get a whole truckload of it, you know, handed to him.
Patrick actually says he thinks they intentionally sunk the brand to prepare it for sale. I've heard Tinkar say that. Oh, wow, if it goes to a Chinese company, that'd be crazy. And Ardman says WotC seems to be going into maintenance mode for the upcoming VTT. Yeah, probably. Who knows what they're doing?
They don't sell anything I want anymore. So
no,
I don't want to see people not eat. But
no.
You know,
you make stuff like Radiant Citadel. What do you expect?
Right.
I mean, come on.
If they're good at what they do, just because you're laid off doesn't mean you're not good at what you do. There's just extra people there. Then they should be able to get a job in that industry still, or in some. They may not have just fired a bunch of game designers. They might have fired office workers.
They fired all kinds of people.
Yeah. So the folks that are just office people, they might be the worst ones for the experience, because lots of companies are laying off office workers because it's a recession. So it'll be tough. It's going to be tough.
Yep. Oh, well. Well, man, shall we call it a night?
I think we shall call it a night. Links will be in the show notes for ways you can give and places you can see us on the internet. Is there anything else you want to say?
Just Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. I think Joe and I are going to keep plugging along. I'm not sure we're going to take a break over the holidays. And right now we got a plan for next week. So I think we're still going to be hanging around for a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, our show doesn't fall on a holiday,
right?
For either one. So I don't see any reason for us not to do a show those days.
I agree.
So with all of that said, let me get my ducks in a row here so I can click the right buttons. All right. If nothing else to say, Mr. Randy, thanks for everybody coming in and commenting, making it a lively evening. And with all that said, this is Joe.
And this is Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.